Hello everyone, hope you're doing well, out and about as you can tell. Well, away for a couple of days actually, away for a nice relaxing break. That's what I was anticipating on the journey. It's just kicking off with West Ham. Went to bed last night with this Lucas Paqueta stuff being linked to Man City, but we didn't really know if we could trust his sources. It was an Italian source, and I thought, why would an Italian, with the greatest respect to him, why would an Italian journalist have news about a Brazilian player going from West Ham to Man City? So I took it with a pinch of salt. But woke up this morning, Steph sent me a screenshot that Fabrizio Romano's tweeted it, now Jacob Steinberg's tweeted it. It's become I say a bit more realistic, very believable this morning. So that's got me a little bit worried. Not quite ruined my break yet, but it's got me a little bit worried. You know, we've already lost Declan Rice. We do not need to lose Lucas Paqueta. The things to look forward to at the minute at West Ham, you can probably count on one hand, and I can assure you at least one digit is attributed to Lucas Paqueta. I don't want to lose any fingers, if I'm honest with you. But today, James Ward-Prowse deal agreed with Southampton. It felt inevitable, didn't it? I think we all thought this was going to be coming, even though we bid 30 million. They rejected it. We walked away, went for Scott McTominay. It always felt like we were going to go back for James Ward-Prowse. We have done, and it's a £30 million bid. All I can imagine is that the structure of the bid is a little bit different, so maybe less add-ons, or when we're paying it is a little bit quicker. Maybe that's been triggered by the money coming into the club for Vlasic and Scamacca. Maybe that's allowed West Ham to have a little bit more wiggle room with how we structure that £30 million bid. But 30 million for Ward-Prowse, it's a bit at the high end, if I'm honest with you. I wouldn't have wanted to go above that. It's getting a bit expensive for me. But he's still a good centre midfielder. The one thing I will say, which is important for this video, because we'll get on to Harry Maguire in a minute, is often I read the comments of people who say, why do people not rate these players? It's one thing that's very important is it's possible, very possible, to rate James Ward-Prowse, to even rate Harry Maguire, but still think the deals are expensive and therefore a bad transfer. We always say a bad transfer doesn't make it a bad player, such as Gianluca Scamacca. You know, fantastic player, didn't work out at West Ham, bad deal. You've got to flip that round, and just because he's a good player doesn't mean it's a good transfer. And I think Ward-Prowse, it feels expensive, but we know what we're getting. We know we're going to get a really good Premier League centre midfielder. The reason I'm more open to Ward-Prowse now than I was at the start of the summer, first of all, he's 10 million less than what Southampton wanted, but second of all, we've got Edson Alvarez coming as well. My worry was we were going to see a midfield of Soucek, Ward-Prowse and Paqueta. Now we might still see that, but it didn't feel very inspiring. I thought Ward-Prowse defensively, he's not the strongest, he's not the quickest. Southampton fans say that his biggest weakness is his lack of pace, so if he gets dispossessed or his teammate gets skinned, there's no recovery. Ward-Prowse is not getting back to bail you out. He can't do it. He's got no pace at all. So I thought having Ward-Prowse sort of as the sitting midfielder would cause us a little bit of bother, but with Alvarez next to him, it means that Ward-Prowse has a license to move 10, 15 yards, 20 yards further forward up the pitch and get involved. And we know, while he's not the most creative player in open play, he is neat and tidy in possession, and he doesn't need to be the most creative player. That's why, for now, we've got Lucas Paqueta. But this is why it's important we keep a hold of Paqueta, not just because he's our best player and he's an entertainer and so on and so forth, but it feels like we're building a midfield to get the best out of him. Alvarez and Ward-Prowse behind Paqueta allows him to stay forward, do what he does best, create for whoever is up front, for Jared Bowen, for Saeed Benrahma. And that's why I'm a bit more open to the Ward-Prowse thing. Now, Harry Maguire, the latest is that we've agreed a deal with Man Utd. They're going to accept that £30 million bid we made. Now, since then, I've seen or heard that Man U are going to be giving Harry Maguire quite a hefty payoff. They're going to be giving him a bit of money to leave so that his wage demands for West Ham decrease a lot. So he's on 200 grand a week at Man United, which he's not going to get at West Ham. Even if we make him our top earner, he won't get more than 140. I'd imagine that's a top price that we've ever paid somebody. I'm thinking back to Chicharito. I think he was on 125 or something. So 140 is the most he'd get at West Ham, I think. And I feel quite confident in that. So there's still a big discrepancy in the wages he's getting at Man U and then the wages he'd get offered at West Ham. But by the sounds of it, Man United are willing to sort of offset that, and they're going to make up the difference when he leaves, which allows him to decrease his wage demands and become affordable to West Ham. So that's helped a little bit, because one of my big concerns, well, it still is a big concern, because he still would be the top earner. And the thing with both of these moves, Ward-Prowse and Maguire, it's it's clearly David Moyes' fancies, where Alvarez, we've been told now, is a Martin Noble pick, actually, which is interesting. It still means that Steiden's not got anyone, and none of the picks are Steiden's, but he's heavily involved in the negotiations, and I'm okay with this makeup for this summer. Long term, we want Steiden to take control and start getting involved in the transfer market and influencing the transfer market. But for now, we need to get players in. The season starts on Saturday, and at the time of recording, we've still not signed anyone, although Alvarez has, had his medical, should be announced hopefully tonight, tomorrow at the latest. Ward-Prowse Maguire on their way as well. I mean, talk about set-piece FC. I'll tell you what's surprising. It's not a good one, though. It's a bad surprise. I'll tell you what is a surprising statistic. When this news was coming through today, Beth, who's a Man United fan, mentioned it, and I thought, Ward-Prowse swinging in free kicks, swinging in the corners, Maguire attacking them. We're going to be scoring a goal every game. Maguire's going to rack up 10 goals for us this season. And she told me he's only scored 4 goals for four for Man United. I assumed it would be like 5, 6 a season, not 4 in total. So that surprised me. But then again, he gets called 50p head for a reason. So it's justified via the lack of goals. But I feel quite confident that Maguire will notch a few for us. It does throw the question, though, what are we doing? Like, defensively, what's the plan? Are we going to switch to 3 at the back with Maguire, Aguerd and Zuma? But then where's the wing backs? Now, this is where the next rumour ties in a little bit. I would suggest that we've already got a left wing back in Emerson, but we don't have a right wing back. Southampton's not a right wing back, Kerr's not a right wing back, and Ben Johnson certainly isn't a right wing back. So I think we would need to invest heavily in that area of the pitch. But on the left hand side, we've got Emerson. Creswell's currently on strike. We need a left back. I've seen us being linked to Ian Maatsen again. Now, I would love Maatsen at West Ham, and this is maybe one of the Steiden picks. Loan with an option to buy is the latest thing going round. I think his contract's running out at Chelsea, so I assume he'll sign a new one and then come to us so Chelsea retain the value, because they're not going to accept that loan with an option to buy if his contract's running out, are they? But I think he's a terrific player. Pre-season, he's been playing in an attacking role for Chelsea rather than the left-back one, which he did for Burnley. But if we are going to go for Maatsen immediately, if our next signing after Maguire, Ward-Prowse and Alvarez is Maatsen, that might hint that we are switching to 3 at the back, because I think he would make a tremendous wing-back. He's fantastic going forward. Defensively, he's looked good in the Championship, but when you play for the best team in the Championship and look good defensively, it's a lot different. To go from the best team last season to a team that's probably going to finish in the bottom half of the Premier League, your defensive responsibilities increase dramatically. So I'd suggest that Maatsen is untested defensively. He's untested at Premier League level completely, but his attacking side of the game, you'd imagine he'll be up for it. Defensively, there's not enough evidence really to suggest, but I think if we do go for him, that might imply we're switching formation. But I can't convince myself, I cannot convince myself we're going to switch to 3 at the back. So if Maguire does come in, and like I said in last night's video, we can't afford to spend 30 million on a player and leave him on the bench. We can't afford to do that. That's forgetting the wages. Now add in the wages. We can't afford to be spending 30 million plus 100 and something thousand pounds a week on someone and he's on the bench. We can't afford that, West Ham. So it would imply that Maguire goes straight into the starting 11. Does Aguerd or Zuma drop out? Again, I'd pick both of them. But what I will say, though, is Zuma will miss a third of the season. Aguerd goes away for African nations. We've got the Europa League. David Moyes, obviously, in the Conference League last season in the group stages, didn't play Kurt Zuma at all. So that would suggest that even if you started Zuma and Maguire, say, in the Premier League, come the Europa League games on a Thursday, you'd be looking at a Aguerd and Maguire partnership. Also got Tilo Kehrer as well. So maybe we're just bulking up the bat. But what has come out last night, which I'm not unsurprised by if you've seen last night's video, is that apparently Moyes has offered Harry Maguire the captaincy at West Ham. There's reservations over how good a captain he was at Man United, or should I say how poor a captain he was. He's going to go down as one of the worst captains in a long time, but it also coincides with Man United being crap. If it's hard, isn't it? It's a hard one, because it's easy to say, well, Maguire's one of the worst captains they've ever had, or certainly over the last 30 years or something, which it's difficult to argue against. But all the other ones have, you know, Ferguson was there for so long. Those captains like Roy Keane played under one of the best managers ever, and they were winning trophies, so they're never going to go down as a poor captain. So I think Maguire was unfortunately at Man United at the worst time in the recent history, with the protests from the fans, poor player recruitment, and managers changing constantly. So it was a difficult time to be captain of Man United, I think. But the fact that so many managers trusted him until Ten Hag, and I'm a big fan of Ten Hag, so that sort of makes me a little bit hesitant. Southgate trusts him a lot as well in the England camp, so that gives me reassurances. So him, maybe this is what he needs. I know some people compare him to Craig Dawson. I don't think the two transfers are compatible at all. I think Dawson, first of all, was on loan, so we got to have a look at him before we bought him. And second of all, Dawson cost $2 million, and probably on about 60 grand a week or something, low cost. And we brought him in to be third choice, fourth choice centre back. It was fine. I just think I understand why people are comparing them, which is a centre-back arriving that we didn't really expect to be a success under David Moyes. Now, I think Maguire will be a success under David Moyes. I've never doubted that. I think he will be a good defender under David Moyes. My problem is, he's expensive. I'm not even sure he gets into our best 11. And David Moyes is only here, for now, David Moyes is only here for the next 11. But these transfers, Maguire, Ward-Prowse, they indicate one of two things. Either David Moyes is staying beyond this season, he's going to get a new contract, or the club don't care. The club aren't arsed that Moyes is in the last year of his contract, because we're ready to spend 60 million on two players for him. That is a lot of money for two players that essentially have a 1 year lifespan at the club. Now, yes, the new manager may come in and like them as well, but they might not. I'd say there's more likelihood of them, the new manager, whoever it is, preferring Edson Alvarez than Harry Maguire. But anyway, that's the latest. I'm off. We're ready to get back on the road and continue with our short break. Hopefully there won't be any major news over the next couple of days, so I can just chill out and relax a little bit. But I'll be back up for the Bournemouth game. Sun's out for the first time in about 3 months, so we've timed this well. Got a little bit lucky. So Maguire likely to be a West Ham player, Ward-Prowse almost a West Ham player, Edson Alvarez pretty much a West Ham player, and Ian Maatsen hopefully will become a West Ham player. If you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it. Subscribe to Hammers Chat. I'll catch up with you in a bit.